Hey there, it's Joe Pardavila, and welcome back to Forbes Books Radio. Today's episode is all about the mysterious cloud. What is the cloud? I have no idea. So joining me today is the president and CEO of Ntirety, one of the largest managed cloud service platforms in the world. His name is Emil Sayegh. Hey there, Emil. How you doing?
Doing great. How about you, Joe?
You know, as well as anybody can be doing these days. Now, I've done a lot of stalking. I've looked you up online, and I've heard you say the definition of the cloud is a set of pooled computing resources that are powered by software and delivered over the web. You said that 10 years ago. You were on the cloud before anybody else was on the cloud, an early pioneer of cloud computing. Why did you see a future in the cloud going back, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. And I think that definition is still valid today. Frankly, just like things are getting more and more pooled, we're seeing more and more sharing in almost every industry. The cloud was basically sharing compute and storage resources. It was inevitable that it was going to happen. The cloud actually did happen and is the major phenomena in IT today.
Go now, trying to remember if you can this far back. Did people think you were crazy because you were such an early adopter in this? Did people like, what? I don't understand. I like having my files on me all the time. I don't feel like I need to be saddled to the internet. Was there pushback from people in the industry and out?
Absolutely. There was a lot. I mean, we were really doing evangelist work back then, 2008, 2009, 2010, really a lot of evangelist work trying to convince people this is the future. And this is a better platform than actually having dedicated compute and storage resources in their data closets or in their data centers and so on and so forth.
Speaking of 2009, 11 years ago, I saw an interview you did where you predicted that cloud computing was going to push shared hosters out of business. I guess you were right, huh?
Absolutely. That industry has been transformed. So whereas potentially shared hosting is still out there, but a lot of them have moved their infrastructure to the public cloud. So They've kind of morphed and started adopting public cloud, but a lot of them are operating on the public cloud platforms.
So all the people that said you were nuts are now diving into the water, right? They're going deep end.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, at that conference, there was a lot of people that called me a lot more than nuts and called me some names that we won't.
It was a meaner place back 11 years ago. We're much nicer nowadays, Emil, aren't we? You know what is funny when you think about cloud technology? You don't have to go too far back in this, but I remember how much of a pain in the ass it was to always have to carry around a portable flash drive. It was so stressful. And coming from the audio world, be like, can someone have a flash drive because I need to save this here and I need to give it to somebody else? I don't know if I have enough room in this flash drive. That's all gone. I mean, I know flash drives still exist and people use them, but they're sort of dinosaurs now. You don't need them.
Yep. As long as you have an internet connection, I would say, look, we're in the business of, disaster recovery and plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, right? So I would still have local copies just in case you don't have an internet connection, which is still a possibility. But for 99.99% of the time, you're going to have an internet connection somehow, either through your phone or, So you're absolutely right.
I like to say that as creative as Hollywood is, Emil, they never saw a lot of things coming, like the mobile phone. If you look at old sci-fi movies that try to predict how, the flying cars and things you could do, 98% of those sci-fi movies had no concept of smartphones. I know Star Trek had, their little walkie-talkies and everything like that, but they couldn't think of it. Like if you look at movies that are supposed to take place in the 2000s that were done in the 70s, 80s, no idea. Same thing with cloud computing. No one could have thought of that. I mean, think about Star Wars, how that would have been a totally different movie if the plans for the Death Star were on the cloud.
Very true.
Why do you think technology, as creative as people in Hollywood are, they couldn't grasp these concepts?
Look, even people that were in technology fought the concept of cloud very much in 2006, 2007, 2008 onward. They fought it tooth and nail. And, the concept is quite disruptive, and people cannot get out of their comfort zone in what they see. People, this is why there's very few visionaries out there that can look a lot further than folks that are, kind of stuck in their own paradigm. I truly think that sometimes also we drink, the same Kool-Aid, we group think, and we end up not able to break through that groupthink. And technology is no different. People think, well, technology, they're avant-garde, they're able to have big thoughts. But IT technology is slow to move because we get caught in our own paradigms, quite honestly.
Mm.
And I think the people that are advising Hollywood, look, they come from that technology world on those topics. And I think they could not see it. They could not see it. And they could not see a distributed cloud all over the galaxy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, and so we're talking about the tech nerds who did not grasp the clouds, but I think for lay people, their introduction to cloud computing was the iCloud hack of celebrity photos a few years ago. Up until then, it was mostly a business tool. How safe now are clouds? Because you remember when that whole thing went down, you shared photos of celebrities. People were like, "Oh my God, the cloud stuff." People can access the cloud. How safe is the cloud, Emil?
Look, I'm going to say it is safe, but I'm going to qualify it. The cloud itself is very safe, just like a car. However, the practices that we put behind it, are we changing our passwords? Are we using safe passwords? Are we sharing passwords? Are we using dual factor authentication? Are we using those in a consistent way, in a safe way? Because if you're not, and you allow yourself to be hacked, then of course it's not safe. You've just given the keys to a complete stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to be careful about is what I would say is the whole realm of social engineering, where people know who you are because you're well known in the industry. So they come in and they start to kind of figure out the names of your pet, so on and so forth. And they start to kind of essentially test the perimeter and try to kind of figure out your personality through your social media and cross-linking these things together. So we just have to be careful not to put a lot of personal information out there, because hackers are starting to kind of cross-link a lot of that stuff to figure out, how to penetrate your social media accounts, how to hack into your bank account, so on and so forth. So whereas the cloud itself is pretty safe, but we have to make sure that we as individuals are not putting information out there that could be potentially cross-linked, and then they develop a profile on how to infiltrate your accounts that are out there.
So it's almost like a game of Clue. If you leave little clues behind as to what your passwords may be, whether, like you said, it's a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a mom, a dad, a birthday, hackers will try to penetrate that, and using another analogy, sort of find the weakness in the fence.
Absolutely. They're going to be testing the perimeter. It's a whole discipline that's called social engineering, where they may call your significant other. They'll get information on the phone. Then they look at the social media profiles. And then, they will keep trying to test all these weak points until you divulge a one piece of information that they're looking for that could be the missing link in penetrating an account that they're targeting. So we just have to be very, very careful and don't leave any breadcrumbs out there about us personally. And look, social media is awesome, absolutely awesome, fantastic. But you just have to be careful not to leave breadcrumbs about things that we use in our passwords.
Okay. All right. One more thing on that subject. We hear about hacking and ransomware attacks all the time, trying to disrupt businesses, expose data. What kind of steps are companies like yourself, like Ntirety, doing to protect their clients?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is what we do on a day in, day out basis. We have implemented the latest and greatest AI technologies, machine learning, so on and so forth, so that we're watching for patterns of people that are trying to infiltrate our customers. And, it's almost like predictive, where we know from the type of traffic that is coming in, whether that's nefarious bad traffic or good traffic. If we suspect it's nefarious, then immediately the AI, the artificial intelligence and the machine learning will kick it up to a human being. And a human being is looking at it, it's like, okay, well, this is bad, because we have so much traffic coming in, it's impossible for a human being to be watching all of the stuff. So we have human beings that are the overlords over the AI and machine learning, at least for now. We're still as the overlord of the machine learning and the artificial intelligence. And, we have the machine learning and artificial intelligence doing the hard work of sifting through all that traffic that's coming in and, figuring out, it's like, okay, does this look suspicious? Yes or no? If it is suspicious, then kick it up. And then a human being looks at it and determines whether that threat needs to be quote unquote neutralized or, segmented away from our customers. So, it could be somebody that's doing phishing attacks where they're trying to get you to click on a link, or it could be somebody that's trying to hack into a server, somebody's trying to steal passwords, somebody that's trying to steal credit card information, or somebody that's trying to kind of come into your computer and turn on that video when you don't want the video camera to be turned on. We have seen that because we actually, one of our clients is one of the largest, if not the largest TV manufacturer in the world. And what comes with every TV is cameras now. They're just like, big, huge computers. And there was tons of attempts where, for people to take over these TVs and turn on these cameras to unsuspecting consumers. And so we have to protect that whole infrastructure from being hacked and being potential a major security threat for consumers and our customer by default.
So, I mean, without getting too technical on what you guys do, I mean, obviously AI is a big component of it, but do you have a human element? Is there someone sitting at the wheel, watching things constantly? Because I always think about these big data companies, and obviously it all runs on its own. But is there someone who's just like, yeah, looks good. That's working fine. Is there some human element to cloud computing?
Absolutely. We have 24/7 teams that are monitoring all that stuff in a continuous basis. New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, our company is fully staffed with multiple teams. One team is watching the actual physical servers, the physical computers. Then there's another layer that is looking at the health of the infrastructure. There's some old software that's running on this group of computers, so those teams are also 24/7 teams that are monitoring. And then you get the security team that I just described, where there's traffic that's coming in and the AI and machine learning kicks it up to the individual, to the human being that says, should I be shutting down this flow of traffic? Yes or no? Because AI and machine learning will shut down a lot of traffic that we know for a fact historically is nefarious. If there's traffic that is coming in from certain countries, and I'm going to single out a few countries and I'm going to be, actually unapologetic to you and telling you that a lot of nefarious traffic comes in from China, from North Korea, from Vietnam.
Russia, I have a feelings in there too.
Russia, absolutely. Yeah. I was going to save the best for last.
I beat you to it.
Yeah. So if there's traffic that's coming in there, and trying to log into a server that usually that server has only been logged into from, Alberta, Canada, boom, our AI and machine learning are going to quarantine, that traffic and then kick it up to a human being and say, hey, look, is this legit? Is their staff all of a sudden travel to Siberia and is trying to log into their server? If not, then boom, that traffic is shunted. We quarantine it, and we don't let it get to its destination. So machine learning and AI are working in conjunction with the humans that are there 24/7 and monitoring that.
I wish you wouldn't use the word quarantine, but I guess you have no choice. It is the term, but I think we're all kind of over the quarantine thing. Speaking of which, how has Ntirety been dealing with the pandemic? Is essentially everyone working from home? Do you have people in the office? How are you guys handling things in your home base in Austin, Texas, correct?
Yeah, we have about 14 data centers globally, so we're a global company. Currently, everybody that was an office employee that was working in office is working from home, and honestly, we have not skipped a beat in terms of productivity. However, remember, we have data centers, so we need people. Essential. We're an essential industry, and our employees are deemed essential. Our business is deemed essential. So our 14 data centers, there's no way to do that from home. You have thousands of computers that are running in that data center, and somebody has to go in and unplug a computer that's acting up, add new capacity. A human being has to do that. It's physical work that needs to be done. And sometimes some of these servers are very heavy, and two people have to do that. So we learned what to do and what not to do because of our subsidiary that is in Korea, operating in South Korea. We saw what happened there. They immediately sent all their workforce that was office employees to home. And then and they took the precautions, they bought the gear for their employees that were working in the data center. So we did immediately that. We said, look, this thing is coming, and this is a no regret decision that we're going to be making. Who cares? Buy more PPEs than you need.
So these guys basically nerds in your data centers, they're in hazmat suits? Or in PPE?
I mean, not hazmat, but they're in gloves and
masks.
And absolutely. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But everybody else is been working from home, and we adjusted very well. Now, in certain states, the orders are lifted. We're not rushing back to the office, but we're starting to kind of introduce a few people here and there in those states where we're able to do it, and where we need to do it. Honestly, it's just whether we're able to do it is not a factor. We got to make sure that it's safe for our employees, and that it's needed at this point.
You're obviously a visionary in cloud computing. You always look a few steps ahead. I wonder, as a CEO of a company, and I always think about this kind of stuff. Like, you look at the campuses of Apple and Facebook and Google. They build these sprawling campuses that attract all the talent in the world. And now that we're in this sort of post-COVID world, hopefully soon, what's the point of all those campuses and the millions of dollars these companies spend on real estate if we're looking at a possibility of everybody working from home? I mean, you've already seen Facebook and Twitter do it. Are those places obsolete? Do you see like Ntirety just having like an office above a garage in Austin, Texas that houses a couple of guys, but everyone else works remotely? Have you thought about the future of working from home?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a hybrid model. Look, frankly, at some point, we're going to need the human interaction again. I don't know that we'll go back to a full office environment, even here at Ntirety, where it's going to be a hybrid model. Maybe certain teams will come in a couple of days a week, work together just so they can get the social interaction. But I do think that, that model of huge campuses, of dense populations is going to get questioned. Just like the retail model got rethought because e-commerce and online commerce, essentially obsoleted a good portion of it, not all of it, but a good portion of it. I do think that working in the office is gonna get rethought, and it's gonna be a hybrid model where there are certain days where certain teams will come to work because they want to interact and they want to collaborate and they want to brainstorm and so on and so forth. But the traditional model of 8 to 5 days a week in the office is going to get rethought for a lot of companies.
Yeah, and I wonder too, because obviously you're in the tech sector, but like even knowledge workers, I look at these companies that have had to lay people off and they've furloughed a lot of employees. And I think if they didn't have that office on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan with the beautiful view, they probably could have afforded having all these people if they had their office in Brooklyn or Queens, in New York, for example. So I wonder if that model will change where you don't need that fancy office because everyone, like you said, at one point, maybe 3 or 4 days a week will be working from home and they'll only come to the office when they have to. Because if you think about it, Emil, you know as well as I do, real estate ain't cheap, especially if you're in Austin, New York City, the Silicon Valley. Can you imagine? You hate to see what would happen to the commercial real estate business, but you look at these companies, how they don't need to spend money on all this stuff, do they?
Absolutely. We're the same way. We have not renewed a couple of leases because we've informed our landlord because we don't foresee in a certain region our team getting back to a office environment. You're absolutely right. This is going to be a major change. Do you need a conference room for team meetings? I would say yes. Could you rent that conference room whenever you have team meetings instead of, again, going back to the sharing economy, right? That's what we talked about, whenever it started with cloud. Could you rent, is there going to be more rent a space for a few days so that you can have these big team meetings, brainstorm? Because again, I do think that whenever you're in the creative space, sometimes you feed on other people's energy, and video doesn't do it justice. You're in the same room, writing on a board, it's just not the same. So I do think for those folks that are engaged in that creative process, I do think that, they still need some element of physical space, but I do think a permanent physical space is going to get questioned going forward.
Well, his name is Emil Sayegh. He is the CEO and president of Ntirety, the largest managed cloud service platform in the world. Emil, first of all, I got to thank you for educating me because, as you can tell from our conversation, I'm not very bright. So thank you for not speaking above me. I understood everything you said. So thank you very much for that, first of all.
Joe, you're awesome. Thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate it. And, it's awesome talking to you. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. It's my honor, and good luck with Ntirety. Good luck in Austin. Hopefully, you'll be able to keep it weird out there because that's the motto in Austin, right?
Absolutely. We're keeping it weird. Absolutely. Every day.
All right. Take care, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take good care.
This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio. Find out more at ForbesBooksRadio.com.